Florida. He's an engineering professor, and he's the director of the graduate program at the Rinker School of Building Construction. So I'm actually a native Gainesvillian. We've lived all over the country, but we have landed back to Gainesville. I'm just going to offer our personal experience and our testimony of homeschooling. I know you represent a variety of different types of schooling. I know there's a lot of questions about homeschooling, so maybe if you have some questions, I can try to answer them. I love homeschooling. I recommend it, and I'm grateful that we have the opportunity to homeschool. I definitely say that homeschooling is not for everyone. You can homeschool without an advanced degree, but there are some requirements for a successful homeschool, and I believe the primary requirement is a loving, healthy home atmosphere and a love for your child. I'd like to introduce you to our children because they're the reason I'm here. They're my credentials, and that's what I've been investing in for the last 20 years or so of my life. My husband put together just a quick bio. I just want to read it very quickly just to let you know that homeschoolers can assimilate. We get the socialization question asked most frequently, and homeschoolers can assimilate properly or normally in academic settings. And just read real quickly, our oldest son, Bob, has worked with the Gainesville Institute some. He graduated from Santa Fe College with an 4.0 with his AA there. He's currently studying electrical engineering. He should be graduating this spring from the University of Florida. Member of the Blue Key, chairman of Chocolate Vote, chief speechwriter for the chief financial officer of the state, Jeff Atwater, this past summer. And he's due to graduate magna cum laude in the spring. Our second son, Minch, is a national finalist in high school public speaking and debate. He worked for 1 year in Chicago for a faith-based publishing house in graphic arts. He was the editor of the Independent Florida Alligator. He played and lettered in football for the Gators at the University of Florida for 2 years, last 2 years. He just graduated summa cum laude in the School of Journalism from the University of Florida in December. He is currently the chief speechwriter for the chief financial officer of the state of Florida, Jeff Atwater. Our daughter, Joy, is due to graduate from the University of Florida in December with dual degrees in history and political science. She's a 3-time national finalist in high school public speaking and debate. She studied abroad for a period of time. She's currently captain of the U.S. speech team, and she has also done some internships in Tallahassee. And our youngest, Joshua, is currently at the University of Florida majoring in public relations. He graduated from Santa Fe with a 3.97, and he plans to go into law school after he graduates from the University of Florida. So I want to say right off the bat that my children have not been successful because I'm such a great teacher. In fact, Joshua, my baby, after his first week in college, said, "So this is what it feels like to have a real teacher." So I was more of a facilitator, a cheerleader, and a guide throughout his high school years. And our success also has not been due to having wonderful, perfect children. Our son, Minch, who played for the Gators and just graduated, would have been labeled an ADD student. He struggled greatly with all of his academics. He was one of those kids that you see in the family circus that bounced from place to place. He never could sit still. He would have certainly been on Ritalin if he had been in certain school settings. You could always find him at the top of the tallest, skinniest tree. Very difficult in his younger years. Our son Joshua, our youngest, had a lot of struggles academically. He did not learn to read very fluently until he was 10, and he struggled greatly in math and in writing. And I believe a lot of his success is due to the investment of his older brother, who really coached him and trained him and helped him, especially with his writing. Even currently, it's helping him with that. Homeschooling is a viable educational option which loving and perfect parents can successfully teach and train both the brightest and best, and also the most challenging and difficult children. Also want to give thanks to God, who's helped us and led us and brought many wonderful people in our lives to help us to produce successful children. The verdict is still out. They are young adults now. They are integrating into society. obviously not perfect. One of my sons brought up a very significant point last night. He said we are all home educators. Just think of the learning that takes place in your home from the time when children are born. Think of the broad base of knowledge they learn, the values, socialization, so many things that they learn in their home. And each of us at some point choose to hand that baton over. He said it's like a sacred trust that we, at some point, each of us do it at different times, choose to give that over to a school administrator or a teacher or someone that we feel best qualified to train and educate our children. And we're constantly making those decisions as parents. As homeschoolers, we do it maybe a little bit later, maybe incrementally, but we all must do that. Subject of the workshop is successful educational methods. I only have a few minutes, so I'm going to talk about two of the aspects of homeschooling here, the benefits that we have found and the results. One of the primary benefits in our home has been the benefit of flexibility. You have the opportunity to tailor your curriculum around your students. If they work really well in one subject, you can speed through it. If they're struggling in a subject, you can stop and take the time to more adequately cover that. We have an expression in our family called having a place in your brain for something. And for example, my husband is reading a book now. It is called The History of the English-Speaking Peoples by Winston Churchill. He really has struggled with the first part of that book because he doesn't have a place in his brain for some of these places and some of these concepts. He's moving on to the period of 1400s and later, so he's able to understand it quickly, and he'll have to go back to some of those things later that he couldn't pick up. But so many times with children, if you can just hold off on certain things and come back to it when they're a little more mature, a little more ready for it, then they can pick up on it very, very quickly. And I'm not saying you neglect them. It's very important that some things you just have to drill, like penmanship especially, until they get it. But some things, if you just wait, let them grow a little bit, really work on some other areas that they're strong, they can come back to it. They can pick it up very quickly. We pounded the basics during the early years at their own pace, and then during the high school years, they had more time to explore and take off on some things they were interested in. Flexibility also allows homeschoolers the freedom to take advantage of some unique life circumstances. My husband went back to school for a PhD when our children were young, 4 to 9. That meant he was spending a lot of time with his studies. It could have been a time where we never got to see him, but we had flexibility. He had to do a lot of travel with his research, so we were able to pick up and just go with him. It was a period of an entire year where we didn't have school in the traditional setting. We had school on the go. We learned history in Philadelphia and Boston. We learned cultures and government in Ottawa by visiting the Parliament there when they were in session. We learned geography as we traveled. We learned science at the seashore in Maine. He was in school at Penn State, so it was a lot of local trips, but we were able to just go with him, learned a lot of life skills like getting by on a shoestring budget because he quit his job to go back to school. So it gives you flexibility to do that, and also flexibility to explore their areas of interest, particularly in the high school and the older years. Our son, Joshua, was able to take off for a semester and do an internship with state representative in the Capitol building. He was also able to take off for a semester and teach government with a group called Teen Pact. He traveled all over the Southeast and had that opportunity to teach government classes to other high school kids during his senior year in high school. We'll skip some of this for time's sake. Another benefit of homeschooling, in addition to the flexibility, is positive socialization. And that's the question we get asked the most frequently, is how can your children possibly be socialized properly when you're only teaching them at home? And that's actually one of the reasons we chose to homeschool. The real world is not age segregated, and we felt like if we would take advantage of opportunities to help them to get along with all age groups. For example, children with larger families have built-in opportunities for the older ones to work with the younger ones, to learn patience with younger children, Our oldest son, Bob, helped to teach our daughter how to read. Our daughter, Joy, taught her baby brother how to play the piano. And as I stated earlier, our son, Minch, really worked and coached with his younger brother, Joshua, in writing skills and helping him with his speeches. Joshua ended up being the championship in the whole country as far as in speech last year in Boston at the National Speech and Debate Tournament. And a lot of that success is due to his brother's investment in his life. It's also important that the children learn to interact with older folks. We have a friend that goes to a nursing home 5 times every month to host birthday parties for the residents there. Many homeschool families go with her each month so the children can spend time around these older folks. When we lived in different parts of the country, we weren't around our extended family. Our children didn't have the benefit of their grandparents being around. So we adopted senior citizens. We adopted grandparents for them that they could invest in and learn to be comfortable around and love and get to know. So it's very important for children to learn to be comfortable around all ages. And that's one of the benefits we have found with homeschooling. Extracurricular activities is another way that children can be socialized. The Craig Dickinson Act was passed in 1996, and it gives homeschoolers the freedom to participate in public school activities like sports and clubs and things like that. We have found the challenge is not getting involved in too many activities. Joshua had to do a lot of schooling through the summer and through other times like that because there were so many activities. Had to be careful that he was certain to cover all the academics. Okay, so let's look at the results of homeschooling. There are exceptions as with any form of education, but homeschooling is producing some remarkable results. It's estimated that there are about 2 million homeschoolers currently in the United States, and it is a growing trend. We're hearing about them more and more. For example, some of the national spelling bee champions have been homeschooled. We all know about Tim Tebow and different athletes. Studies are showing that homeschoolers tend to be more involved in civic activities. There have been several homeschoolers recently nominated to their state House of Representatives. There were 2 in Oklahoma, young people, and 1 in Tampa, recently elected to the state House here in Florida. Public officials are looking now. There's several public officials. The state chief financial officer, Jeff Atwater, has worked with homeschoolers in the last couple of years, and he's been recruiting them to help with his staff. He has a fabulous staff. There are also numerous studies that have been conducted recently documenting the academic success of homeschooling. The U.S. Department of Education recently found that homeschool students are performing exceptionally well on test scores, SAT, ACT, scores like that. Most colleges are welcoming homeschool students. We are here in Gainesville. Our students went the junior college route, but most colleges in the country are welcoming homeschoolers. There are 2 notable exceptions, one of which is the University of Florida, the other is Michigan. And we recently met with some administrators, the admissions vice president at the University of Florida to address this issue. And they are making some changes there. But University of Florida does require 4 subject SAT tests of homeschoolers, and currently UF and Michigan are the only 2 which require additional requirements for homeschoolers. So I did a study on peer institutions. There are quite a few what University of Florida considers to be their peer institutions. So I did a study on both those and the Ivy League schools and talked to many of the administrators and the admissions counselors from the schools and found that they are welcoming homeschoolers. Princeton had a recent valedictorian that was homeschooled. And if you look on their websites, they are welcoming homeschoolers. And the University of Florida is starting to get on board with that too. But I researched Duke and William and Mary and MIT, researched about 50 different colleges. I'm happy to say, well, professors are also noting the quality of homeschool students. I recently visited with the teacher that was named Teacher of the Year at the University of Florida. And he said that this past semester, the only 2 students that graduated summa cum laude, one of them was Minch, were both homeschooled this past term, but the only 2 of his students that graduated summa cum laude. And I just want to thank you for the opportunity to share with you a small part of our homeschooling experience. And I just pray for wisdom for all of us as we seek to make the best educational choices for our children.